everybody. Welcome to the Method to Our Madness podcast. I'm Stacy Marola, PhD, and I'm here with my co-host, Bill Pate.
Hello.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about human subjects protections and the seminal work in this, the Belmont Report, which came out and was released to the public in 1979. I've been writing about this on Substack. I have like 3 articles on Substack about it that I wrote in December. And I got started on this because I was listening to NPR and there was a story about the Meta glasses, where
Yeah.
you can be recorded at any time. And one of the commenters was like saying that she assumed now that she's being recorded at any time when she's in front of someone. And that's, and that got me thinking because, in the research that we do, we have to provide informed consent before we're collecting data on anybody. And basically, these glasses, that's what they're doing. They're collecting data on you. It's going to be analyzed by someone, but they're not having to give informed consent for, whatever reason. And it seems unethical to me. So that's why I've been writing about this. And then, I thought maybe good to have a podcast episode about human subjects protections. So the Belmont Report. So there's a long history that came before the Belmont Report, a long history of sort of abuse, actually, in scientific research. A key moment, actually, was the Nuremberg trials after World War II, when, because of all the experimentation that the Nazis did on the Jews in the concentration camps. So, but there was also, within the United States, there was the Tuskegee syphilis study where 400 African Americans in the South, African American men, were basically tracked for years with untreated syphilis, and they were told they were going to get medical treatment, and they were not provided any medical treatment.
Right.
And yeah, so basically, the goal of that was to see what the effects of untreated syphilis were. But I mean, people knew what it was. It was really horrible. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
There was a great made for TV movie. Did you ever see that?
no, what is it? Like,
So it's called Miss Evers' Boys,
Mhm.
and it had Alfre Woodard and Lawrence Fishburne. And it's about that study. I only saw it because I was at the Marine Biological Laboratory doing some observation stuff with a summer group, a summer course, doing the evaluation for it. And I sat in on one of the sessions and they watched this movie. And I'm like, okay, this is like a made for TV. But like, she won an Emmy for this performance and it won a bunch of other awards because it was such an important like story to like have on TV. And so we saw the whole thing and it's like, wow, this is pretty bad. So it covers like the whole thing. And you're right. It's like, was it penicillin was discovered to be the cure for it. And even though the people who were running the study knew full well that they could eliminate it for them, they deliberately withheld treatment because they wanted to see what the long-term effects would be
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
for whatever reason, yeah. And the thing is, like, people knew what long-term, effects of syphilis were because before penicillin, you couldn't cure it. So I think that's actually what killed Gauguin, So,
Yeah, there's been
like,
famous examples of it.
famous examples of what happens with untreated syphilis. So anyway, it's just really awful. So when that came to light in I think it was 1972, there was an outcry, obviously. And so this led Congress to create the National Commission in 1974 that led to the Belmont Report. So the Belmont Report, and actually the commission met from like, I guess around 1974, 1975 until, the report was produced in 1978 and then released to the public in 1979. So they met for about 4 years to come up with the report. And the report's pretty short. It's like 33 pages, I think. It's very important. And the principles that they outline in there have guided recommendations within, federal research and within university research and led to something called the Common Rule, which is another regulation that provides guidance on setting up IRBs, institutional review boards, which, are dedicated to ensuring that human subjects are protected within research. Anyway, but I guess we should probably talk a little bit about what's in the Belmont report. And we can provide a link to the Belmont report too in the notes of the podcast.
That's a great idea.
So yeah, the Belmont report outlines 3 key principles: respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. So respect for persons means that people are all autonomous individuals and they should, this is called informed consent. They need to be provided with enough information about your study to make an informed decision about whether they want to participate or not. And they need to give consent to be within, to be part of the study. And then some people who might be in positions where they aren't able to provide informed consent because they're more vulnerable population, such as children, prisoners, they require special protections. So, like in the case of prisoners, where it might seem to be that, okay, maybe they should be allowed to participate in research, there's also, because they're a prisoner, there's a coercive aspect of it. So, maybe they think that they have to participate, otherwise they might be punished or something. And children can't, they're too young to really understand the risks and benefits of being in research. So,
Yeah, legally they can't give consent, so.
yeah, exactly. So the parents have to give consent. Okay. And then beneficence is that the benefits need to outweigh the risks of the research. So do no harm. And people need to be provided with information about risks and benefits of the research. So now the benefits could be to the individual themselves or to society. Maybe we're learning more about how certain programs work. Or, in the case of a drug trial, they might actually be specific to that individual. They might get cured of their disease, and also provide a cure for the rest of society as well. But people need to have an understanding of what the specific risks and benefits are, and the benefits should outweigh the risks of the research. And then justice. So justice means that the burdens of research are equally distributed. So not, one group is not burdened with being the research subjects for everything. So you can't just take prisoners or something, just because they're, you have access to that population. So yeah, those are the 3 key principles of it. And it led to the Common Rule, which established regulations for institutional review boards to review research within the federal government funded research.
Yep, federally funded.
Federally funded research. And also, and universities get a lot of federal funding, so they have IRBs. Mm-hmm. So and I had to develop an IRB once for a company. So this was a long time ago. We had gotten a federal contract, and they're like, Stacy, you could be the IRB chair. I was like, really? Okay. So I had to
just
get
kind of thrown into it.
Just kind of thrown into it. Here, make an IRB. So yeah, I remember at the time I was like, okay, let me get the information from maybe it was the NIH or something, or HHS, about setting up an IRB. And so they sent me this It was a videotape. A videotape to like train people,
Oh my
and
goodness.
so yeah, so like it was a videotape.
Oof.
And this is, oh, you know, this wasn't like 1995. This was, you know, you know, it was like I don't know, maybe 2008, 2009. So that, you know,
Really? Wow. Okay.
we could have had a CD or DVD at that point. But no, it was a videotape. And I think I remember it covering, you know, respect for persons, beneficence, and justice,
Mhm.
but also covered some of the history of human subjects protections. You know, the Nuremberg trials, the Tuskegee syphilis study. But yeah, we were, you know, my role was to be, you know, I had to set up procedures for reviewing the research that was done,
Right.
going to be done at the organization, and make sure everyone was trained who was going to be on the panel to review.
And
Um,
the panel needs to include like an ordinary citizen or something, not just
yeah,
experts.
yeah, it can't just be all researchers because it has to be someone that can advocate
Mhm.
just for, yeah, the regular person. So yeah, so it's pretty intense to have to put together these IRBs, and the process of reviewing the research is really, I mean, it's pretty stringent. I mean, I know I've been through it myself on the other side, having to get my materials, you know, reviewed to make sure, you know, that they review the consent forms, that they review the procedures, they review, yeah, they review the data collection procedures, they make sure that, you know, confidentiality is ensured. They also look at data destruction, you know, how will you get
Mhm.
rid
Oh
of
yeah, what to do with the data after the
what
study's done.
afterwards, yeah, after the study is done, your populations that you're, you know, and then, yeah, and then ensuring that, you know, the benefits outweigh the risks of the research. So you could go back and forth with the IRB quite a bit, make sure that everything is laid out very clearly, that people are being, you know, informed in a clear way about about what they're getting into. So have you've worked with IRBs before, right, Bill?
Yeah, when I was an undergrad and graduate student, we had a cognitive research lab, so we had to deal with IRB stuff. It was all set up, but we just had to, you know, go through the procedure with recruiting participants, and then like at the beginning, before they started anything, they had to have clear informed consent. Made sure they got a copy of it to keep with them in case they had any questions or thoughts later. And then we've dealt with it a little bit when we've partnered with other consultants. Usually when I've been the sub, the other firm would be the lead in setting up the IRB or making sure they had the IRB. And then there are a lot of projects we've done with professors at universities, and they have their own IRB for their part. But then, like, if we need to do interviews and stuff, we either have to be built into that or we have to like do our own thing. But it's a pretty straightforward process if we're not interacting directly with individuals. If it's like after the fact, something's already been collected, and so then we do the secondary analysis. And so the requirements are much lower for something like that. But yeah, I don't think I've gone through the process of like submitting materials in a long time because of different relationships that I've had with researchers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Secondary data, it's not as rigorous. You know,
Right.
yeah,
There's still
right.
something.
There's still
They have to
something.
let you know. They want to see it so they can say, yes, this does qualify as secondary. We're not going to need a whole bunch of stuff, but what do you plan to do with this? What's going to happen to the data afterwards? How are you going to keep stuff confidential? Yeah, all that good stuff.
What's been really concerning is that this is why I got into Substack writing about this was that, you know, between the meta glasses and then there was like an toys being like AI. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
The
okay.
AI toys that were being given to kids so that, you know, I don't know, when we were kids, there were toys that we interacted with but they only had like specific things they could say. When you pull the string or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Teddy Ruxpin. Was that
Hey,
the
Ruxpin, yeah,
yeah.
I was trying to think of the name of it. But yeah, but now there are toys, which I guess, the kid's supposed to interact with, and then the AI comes up with some sort of response. But, they're still collecting data on kids without getting informed consent from parents. So it's really bad. And I was reading something about people on dating sites, like they were conducting social experiments even though within the user agreement, deep down in the user agreement, they might say, oh, we're allowed, we might conduct experiments with whatever, however they worded it. Still, the people didn't know at the time that they were in an experiment. So when they were seeing
Oh
on their,
wow.
yeah, so they just kind of like changed. I think it was they were changing the match. Like they might say, you're only 15% matched with this person when actually they had been maybe 90% or whatever matched with them. Yeah, just and seeing how people reacted without telling them, oh, you're an experiment. They might have told them, I think they might have told them afterwards, but that's not informed consent.
That is not.
That is not informed consent. so, so I think, and I feel like, back in 1978 or whatever, when the Belmont report came out, we didn't have AI and all, I mean, there was sort of a clear delineation, I guess, between, people that were doing research. And the federal government was obviously the biggest funder of the research. It still
Yeah.
is. I think it still is with all the cuts, but I think it still is.
Currently.
Is it maybe, back then? So it's kind of clear, like, okay, all these researchers are being covered by the common rule and need to follow the guidelines. But now we have all these companies doing their own research and without any regulation, really. I mean, why are you allowed to just if you and I, Bill, have to go through all this process to do some interviews, why is someone allowed to just come along with some glasses and just record me and then
Right.
analyze it, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy how like technology has advanced to the point where you can collect data so easily and with like video in public places and like you can
Yeah,
probably record in like 4K now and it's insane. Yeah,
yeah,
and like you said, devices, just everyday devices that we have that can like record stuff or like Alexa, just recording stuff in the corner. And there's been a huge deal about that because it has to constantly listen in order to know if it's being asked to do something. But
right.
they were like recording, they were saving all that information. It's like you're having a conversation with your significant other or your kid or
And,
recorded and
like
processed.
if you stick it in a user agreement, maybe it's legal. It's not ethical, you know.
Right. Yeah, because it's not really informed. Yeah, you're
Not
absolutely
informed.
right.
Not informed. These people on the dating app, like they didn't know they were an experiment, so they couldn't say, "Oh, I'm just gonna delete this app now," like because that's the thing with informed consent. You people allowed to leave experiments, for any reason at any time. Like they're not, they need to consent to be in there, and they need to consent ongoing. They can leave without any penalty
Right.
against them. So like, so you don't know if you're an experiment. I mean, besides the fact that you didn't give informed consent to be there, like, you don't know that. Oh, maybe I don't want to be part of this experiment now.
Right.
You're just so you take away. Yeah, there's a lack of respect for persons in that case. So the goal of this episode of the podcast is kind of just trying to educate people about these responsibilities. Because I feel like, now, like I said, now as more people are doing research or things that could be considered quote unquote research, there needs to be an understanding that there are ethics involved
Mhm.
dealing with the public. And you can't just go willy nilly just collecting data and, analyzing data without, just conducting experiments on people without, being guided by these principles. That's my soapbox. That's like, just,
No, it's definitely an important thing. You're absolutely right. There's the moral aspect of it, and then you're right, ethics, the ethical obligation that we have to protect people, or to, like you said, do no harm, part of that beneficence. But then justice, there's got to be a way for people to be able to rectify stuff if they feel that, they were not respected properly. There has to be an avenue of obtaining justice to be able to document it, to get relief, all that stuff.
exactly.
And I'm reminded about the Belmont report. I think every 3, 5 years when I have to re-up my city training. Do you have city training, or have you done it recently?
I haven't done it recently. I should probably do that again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to do it when there's an institution like a university that you're working on a project with, and like, oh, okay, we have to make sure that, you've done this training. And so if they have an account, which they usually do with like city, then you can take it for free. I'm hoping it's either low cost or free if you're not actively working on something, but that's definitely something maybe to look into. Although you
What
probably
is?
still have certifications still.
Yeah, I mean, I have done it in the past. We're for the folks at home. Like, what does city stand for?
So CITI stands for the Collaborative Institutional Training Initiative. It's an online program providing essential education in research ethics, compliance, and responsible conduct for researchers, students, and institutions globally. This is according to the Gemini AI.
Cool. Yeah, so if you're looking into getting a certification, check out Citi, CITI.
Yeah, there are probably other programs that also do something similar, but that's the one that's kind of well known, I think. I've been kind of pointed to for different projects.
Yeah, I've done it through universities that I've worked with in the past. I'm not sure if it was Citi in particular, but I've definitely like various courses. So, well, okay, so we'll put some information about the Belmont report in the notes for the podcast and maybe a link to city training and any other information that we have about human subjects protections. So, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this week. And as always, you'll feel free to reach out to Bill or I if you have questions. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're on Blue Sky. So feel free.
Facebook.
Facebook, feel free to chat with us. So, all right,